Good afternoon. Welcome to the News Roundup for Thursday, September 18, 2025. It's Bill Thomas here with a number of gripping stories to share with you today. And here's what's happening right now on the big Roundup. We begin with this. Communist China threatening to use military force to take over the self-governed island nation of Taiwan. Former Vice President Kamala Harris blaming America for dumping her first choice as running mate in the 2024 presidential election. And ABC yanks late-night host Jimmy Kimmel from the air following the comedian's inappropriate remarks concerning the brutal assassination of political activist Charlie Kirk. Also, 3 law enforcement officers and a suspect dead following a shootout in rural Pennsylvania. And a wildly popular food delivery service says they'll soon be dropping your vittles off by drone. We'll tell you when and where you should start looking to the sky for your next meal. All this and more coming up right now on the Big Roundup. We have a great deal to get to today, and we begin with ominous threats coming out of China regarding their plans to take over the self-ruled Republic of Taiwan by any means necessary and eventually make the island part of their country once again. China's defense minister now saying that his nation will never allow Taiwan's independence to succeed no matter what it takes, and that restoring Taiwan to China, it plays a pivotal role in establishing what he calls the post-war international order. Additionally, the defense minister claims that China is ready, willing, and able to deal with and fend off any outside military forces that regrettably decide to interfere in the matter. In a veiled reference to the U.S., he goes on to warn that if any other country sticks their nose in China's business and compels other nations to take sides as well, they will wind up eventually plunging the entire international community into complete chaos and conflict. On the other hand, the defense minister also says that his nation has no intention of creating a new world order, saying that they're ready to work with any willing partners to serve as a force for global peace, stability, and progress. In case you're not aware, Taiwan is a democracy of 23 million people, which has been governed separately from China since the communist regime took over the mainland back in 1949. As a result, Beijing now considers the island to be a breakaway province, and they've been ratcheting up intense pressure on the nearby island with a number of extremely provocative military maneuvers. For their part, Taiwan firmly maintains that they are a sovereign country whose future should be decided by the people that live there. Meanwhile, Taiwan has just unveiled their first missile to be jointly manufactured with a U.S. company as our two nations deepen our military and overall cooperation in the face of China's mounting and flagrant threats. Final thought, and this is the News Roundup Lowdown. You know, for a good chunk of time, China has had Taiwan in their crosshairs, and anyone with a pulse, they know full well what China's true intentions are with regard to that small but well-fortified island nation. That China has thus far failed to move on Taiwan is most likely due to the fact that they know the U.S. and Taiwan share a very deep, although unofficial, relationship. Taiwan is one of our most significant trading partners, and while Washington doesn't recognize Taiwan diplomatically, it remains the island's top weapons supplier. In fact, during Trump's first term, his administration approved several major arms packages, including upgraded F-16V fighter jets. Now, to my knowledge, the current Trump administration has been mildly ambiguous regarding whether or not they would deploy troops to defend Taiwan in the event of an attack by China, but I certainly wouldn't rule it out. Earlier this month, China took part in a massive military parade to, according to them, commemorate the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II in the Pacific. You know, all the big stars were there, the big players, Russian President Vladimir Putin, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. You've seen the pictures, some others as well. The real reason for the parade? Fear. Fear, intimidation, and implied threat. With that, producer Davey joining us now from the Roundup Studios in Washington, D.C. And Davey, for my money, that parade, it was meant as a warning to Taiwan, if you understand what I'm getting at. Would you agree with that?
Well, I think it was more than just a warning to Taiwan as well, Bill. It was a showing off everything they think they're capable of doing against the United States as well.
Yeah, showboating and so much more. Hey, your thoughts and comments, bring them on right now. We are at newsroundupwithbill@gmail.com. Davey, over to the email bag. I imagine a lot of folks are very concerned about this one. And what are folks saying?
Oh, yeah, Bill. This is a big, big issue. Isaiah in Denver, Colorado leads off today.
Hello, Isaiah.
And he says, what more evidence do you need? Communist China is an enemy to the entire free world. They're preparing to take Taiwan by force, and they make no bones about it. Wake up.
Yeah, wake up, everybody. Wake up. That's a good wake-up call for the entire world. You watch what Russia is doing with Ukraine. China is supporting Russia, and I think Russia will support China when they make that move or if they make that move on Taiwan. But in my mind, it's when and not if. Thank you very much for checking in. David, who's up next?
Yeah, here's a view from Kitty in San Francisco, CA, Bill.
What do you say, Kitty?
Kitty says we should stand firmly at the side of the freedom-loving people of Taiwan as they valiantly defend what little remains of their homeland.
Absolutely. You know, Xi Jinping, I know you've seen that smiling face of his. He looks like your smiling uncle, and if you don't know anything about him, looks like the kind of guy you'd buy a used car from at Xi's Shiny Used Car Emporium. But look deeper, look a lot deeper, and remember, don't let that handshake and smile fool you. We all know what this guy's up to. He is every bit as evil as the global dictators he plays host to at those fantastic parades. He's one bad cat. And again, I'll tell you, look deep before you think he's a nice guy. Change things up just a bit now, turning our attention to yet another bewildering revelation coming from the mouth of former Vice President Kamala Harris, who continues to astonish the world by peeling back the curtain on her failed run for president. Harris now revealing that she would have actually chosen former Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg to be her running mate last year, except for one reason. She says America wasn't ready for the pairing. In her upcoming book, Harris says that Buttigieg was absolutely her first choice and that he would have been an ideal partner if only he were a straight white man. However, she claims that her campaign was already asking a lot of our nation by urging us to accept her as a black woman who's married to a Jewish man, and that knowing exactly what was at stake, it was way too big of a risk. No, it really wasn't. America doesn't care what color you are, what race you are, or who you're married to. What they care about is, can you do the job? She couldn't. She was booted out. She goes on to say that she remains good friends with both Buttigieg and his partner, and she also says she thinks the former naval intelligence officer and mayor of South Bend, Indiana, understands the reasoning behind her very difficult decision. As you're probably aware by now, Harris ultimately went on to choose Minnesota Governor Tim Walz to be her running mate, and the pair, they eventually lost convincingly to the current team in charge, President Donald J. Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance. And final thought, this is the News Roundup Lowdown. You know, I'm sure Governor Tim Walz will be pleased to learn that failed presidential candidate Kamala Harris chose him because the other guy was, according to her, a liability. You were not her first choice. Man, that's got a sting. Also, Pete Buttigieg, with his stellar background as a small-town mayor and a transportation secretary, he would have made a prime choice to be the vice president of the U.S., but perhaps Madam Harris could have dug a little bit deeper and discovered a more appropriate running mate. And I'm just thinking out loud, Davey, throwing some names out there. If I'm wrong, please feel free to tell me. Maybe 70s teen idol Leif Garrett. I think he's available. Uncle Bradley. My Uncle Bradley would have made a nifty second in command. He right now works at a grocery store but gets plenty of time off. And Dan Quayle, I think he would have been the ideal choice on account of he did the job a long time ago and he'd need very little training. And switching parties ain't that big a deal. Look, this book, if you haven't read it yet, most of us haven't, we've heard quite a bit about it. The book is more than an embarrassing attempt to stay top of mind, somehow relevant and in the public eye. Harris was a failed vice president on a variety of levels, a failed presidential candidate who lost to a highly flawed candidate, and time now for her to simply develop a new career path. Your thoughts and comments, absolutely encouraged. Drop us a note via email. You'll find us at newsroundupwithbill@gmail.com. Davey, it's just a guess on my part, but I imagine you can tell I'm not a big Kamala Harris fan. Can you tell?
I think I can tell, Bill. It seems like you're not too fond of her.
Not exactly. And what are folks saying on email?
Okay. Tony in Flagstaff, Arizona, checking in with us today.
Very good. Tony, what are you thinking?
Tony says, by waffling on her choice, Harris now admits to the whole world that she's incapable of making critical decisions on behalf of our country while completely insulting the integrity of the American public at the same time.
Yeah, and who is this Tim Walz guy? That doesn't sound like the ideal choice for a vice presidential candidate. And she hasn't got a whole lot on her mind. That's why she lost the election, not because of who she chose or didn't choose to be her running mate. She can't answer a question. She mumbles, fumbles, stumbles, and bumbles through every softball question that's lobbed at her. And all she does is laugh and cackle and giggle at every question that's asked of her, and she can't come up with a credible thought. No, she was just a huge embarrassment to run as a presidential candidate. Democrats, you got that one wrong. And Davey, who's up next?
Okay, here's a bit of a different view, Bill, from Judy in Portland, Oregon.
Hey, Jude, what are you thinking?
Judy says Kamala Harris is right, and her confession shows that she was the superior choice to be our nation's commander-in-chief.
Oh.
Giving the MAGA crowd any additional excuse to trash her would have only made things worse.
Well, we don't need any excuses to trash her. She gives us plenty of excuses and plenty of reason. And back to that book, by the way, Kiss and Tell books should be left to movie stars and rock and roll bands. This is conduct unbecoming a politician. I believe she wants to run again in 2028. If you're going to write a book, write something with substance, appeal, and meaning, like Dr. Kissinger did, President Nixon as well, or President Reagan. They all wrote very lovely books. 107 Days reads more like a Kitty Kelly dime store tell-all. It's the wrong idea. It's the wrong book. Don't waste your time. All right, change channels now and tune into a new story about a late-night talk show host who's been given the boot, at least temporarily, following an uproar over his ugly and mean-spirited remarks, all concerning the tragic murder of political activist Charlie Kirk. ABC now suspending Jimmy Kimmel's late-night program indefinitely after some of his nasty comments caused a large group of the network's affiliated stations to boycott his show, and I don't blame him. Among those comments, Kimmel suggesting in one of his unfunny monologues that Kirk's assassin might have actually been a pro-MAGA Republican. The president of Nexstar Communications Group, they own 23 ABC affiliates, says they're pulling the show entirely from their lineup because Kimmel's remarks are both offensive and insensitive at a critical time in our national discourse. Furthermore, the head of our nation's Federal Communications Commission, our FCC, says that Kimmel's comments are truly sick and claims that his agency, they now have a very strong case for holding Kimmel, ABC, and their parent company, Disney, all accountable for spreading misinformation. And by accountable, I imagine that means very hefty fines and perhaps more. It's all still kind of being decided right now. Kimmel's late-night show has been airing on ABC since 2003. Right now, no timetable for its possible return, and President Trump applauding the move, saying that it's long overdue. Meanwhile, both Disney and the Nexstar Group have been pressing business with the FCC and can ill afford to wind up on the wrong side of the president, who's already claiming that Kimmel's show is gone for good. Critics of the move say that calling for Kimmel's ouster is simply the latest effort by Trump and his administration to use their combined power to police free speech of any media outlet that's highly critical of the president. Final thought, and this is the News Roundup Lowdown. You know, when you're making an obscene amount of money as a second-rate late-night TV host on a major network, kind of critical to think before you make dumb rookie comments. I've never seen more than 30 seconds of this guy's show, but as best I can tell, he's not funny, interesting, or pretty. To my knowledge, he's no actor, doesn't sing or dance, and has no discernible skills, so he kind of did what he had to do, I suppose, in a feeble attempt to appear relevant and appeal to somebody. Can't imagine who. Kimmel's comments related to the execution of a great American conservative political activist beyond disturbing. Charlie Kirk was murdered while he was simply having a conversation with students on a college campus in Utah, and he was by no means a threat to anybody. To claim that Republicans are now trying to capitalize on the murder of Charlie Kirk is tragically insensitive, politically divisive, and in the world of late night, just unfunny. And that all adds up to an epic fail. Late-night TV programs should be handled by pros. Johnny Carson, David Letterman, Jay Leno, and maybe even that guy I'm not horribly fond of, Conan O'Brien. Kimmel, not so much. And what are you thinking? Share your thoughts and comments with us. Maybe you're a big late-night fan. You'll reach us at newsroundupwithbill@gmail.com. Davey, what are folks saying about this one? This is a big deal.
Oh, yeah, Bill. This is certainly a hot-button topic, and there are tons of people weighing in. So let's get right to the mailbag here, and we start with Rory, who's writing to us today from Sandpoint, Idaho.
Rory, welcome to the program. I always say it. State your business, sir. What are you thinking?
Rory says, for too long now, Jimmy Kimmel has targeted President Trump with his reprehensible bile.
Yeah.
Tarnishing the memory of a fallen hero is a bridge too far, and good riddance to bad rubbish.
Yeah, like we said, it's sick, it's disturbing, it's wholly insensitive. I can't imagine a guy like that with that big giant TV show making all that dough saying something as ridiculous as what he said. Time for him to go, absolutely. We'll find anything better than Jimmy Kimmel. Appreciate the call, and Davey, who's next?
Okay, here's a view from Gabe in Madison, Wisconsin, Bill.
Okay, what are you thinking, Gabe?
And Gabe says, quote, Trump and his gang of goose-stepping hypocrites are taking another page out of the authoritarian playbook by shutting down anyone who disagrees with their dangerous backward policies. Yeah. Where's their beloved freedom of speech now?
Yeah, I know where you're going with that, and you're talking about censorship and so much more. This has nothing to do with government censorship. It has nothing to do with Donald Trump forcing anybody off the air. Neither the FCC nor the Trump administration had anything to do with this show getting yanked. This is a business decision, pure and simple. Has nothing to do with cancel culture, and it's just good business. You know, the stations which aired the program are simply refusing to carry a show hosted by a confused, no-talent Jimmy Kimmel. They get better ratings running a 1990s Ronco infomercial. Dave, if you're like me, you're a big fan of Ron Popeil, yes?
Absolutely. Nothing's better than the Ron Popeil spray-on hair, Bill.
I caught that. That's because I'm kind of dwindling up top. I don't appreciate that, Producer Davey. All right, now some additional headlines we are keeping a very close watch on here in the News Roundup newsroom. Although, Dave, I do have a birthday coming up. Maybe you break down and buy me a can of that spray-on hair. Can you pull that off for us?
If that's what you want for your birthday, Bill, I think you can have it as a gift.
You can afford $7.99. All right, a heartbreaking day in rural York County, Pennsylvania. This is a big deal. 3 police officers shot dead by a suspected stalker. The suspect opening fire on officers with what's called an AR-15 assault rifle when they opened the front door to arrest him. The suspect later killed by police at the scene. This all happened late yesterday afternoon, and that investigation is ongoing right now. Turning to Washington now, and President Trump announcing plans to officially designate the radical group Antifa as a major terrorist organization. And on the international front, Israel's finance minister now saying that the overwhelming destruction in the battered Gaza Strip could eventually be turned into a highly profitable real estate opportunity. Those remarks echoing similar comments made earlier by President Trump and further infuriating Palestinians and their supporters worldwide. I will turn now to the world of business and a quick glance at some developing stories which are making headlines today in finance, commerce, and more. This is a big deal. Chip-making giant NVIDIA announcing plans to invest $5 billion in struggling semiconductor manufacturer Intel. We've had a lot of stories about Intel recently. They are struggling just a bit. NVIDIA to the rescue. NVIDIA's CEO calling the partnership a fusion of 2 world-class platforms and saying that the era of AI computing, it has now officially arrived. The world is changing. Also, Amazon making a big move to help out their employees by investing more than $1 billion to both raise wages and dramatically lower the cost of healthcare plans for a number of their U.S.-based blue-collar workers. And a leading financial expert sounding the alarm, warning that the U.S. economy now leaning much too heavily on the spending habits of the top 20% of our nation's earners, saying that if they ever spend less, we are likely headed for a recession. And right now, we'll move to the lighter side of news, and this is where we take a rapid look at a few dazzling stories absolutely going to make your day, or at least give you a good chuckle or two. Give it a shot and see what happens. Kick things off today with a story that's going to hit you right where it hurts, in the wallet, especially if you're a fan of one of those highly prestigious credit cards. American Express now unveiling their shiny new high-end platinum card, which comes with a very steep price tag along with a whole boatload of valuable perks. Now, if you want one of these babies, you have to fork out an additional annual fee of $895 just to carry one around in your pocket before showing it off to all your friends when you go to pick up the tab. However, the card also comes with nearly $3,500 worth of rockin' good benefits, including hundreds of dollars in credits for hotels, dining, and even certain streaming services. Company swears that all these perks add up to more than enough to cover the hefty $200 rate hike, the annual rate hike from last year's Platinum card. And so far, many of the card's users, they seem to agree. And David, that $895, that's each year. When you renew it, another $900 a year, right?
That's correct, Bill, unless they decide to raise it again next year.
And they just might do that. Meanwhile, Amex issuing the new stainless steel card with an extremely high gloss finish. So, if nothing else, you can use it as a mirror. I'd rather use it to buy a new Cadillac, but you can use it as a mirror. Now, I think the idea of the platinum thingy, I think I like it, and I'd like to kind of feel like a big shot if I had that card in my $2.98 wallet that engineer Jamie found at a garage sale 9 years ago, and she generously gave it to me for my birthday way back in 2016. Thank you, Jamie. Well, that wallet today fallen apart. The cheap stitching, it's all but gone. And if I had any credit cards at all, they would have fallen out by now. But none of that matters. If I had the platinum card, I'd feel like Thurston Howell III, all high class and junk. Unfortunately, unless I win the lottery, there's no way I can shell out 900 clams to have that prestigious card on my person. And the last time, Davey, I applied for a credit card, Sears emphatically said no. Now then, Davey Cakes, let's launch over to our next story. And what do you got?
Okay, Bill, this is a story for all people who get their food delivered.
Oh, I love food delivery. For our next earth-shattering story, we'll literally take to the skies. That way, right there. It's a bird. It's a plane. No, it might just be Uber Eats. I've heard of those guys. The extremely popular food delivery service now announcing plans to use drones to ferry orders for their customers, with the groundbreaking innovation expected to fly into a number of test markets by the end of this year. California-based Uber says they're partnering up with an Israeli company called Flytrex for the high fly and move, and ironically, that organization already using their drones for delivery meals with DoorDash as well. Sounds like a bit of a conflict of interest, but as long as my food is flown in and in a timely manner, I'll sign off on it. In the meantime, it's now like the Wild West in the drone world, with Google, Amazon, and a whole bunch of startups all delivering their own flying delivery services for companies like Walmart, Panera, and a whole bunch more. You know, proponents say there's no longer any doubt about it. Like it or not, autonomous drones are the future of food delivery because they're fast, affordable, and best of all, they are hands-free. Look, the way I see it, the world just keeps getting better and better. Anytime I don't have to jump into the News Roundup satellite truck and drive somewhere stuck in traffic for an hour to get my vittles, and I'm going to be a happy guy. Use the app, you sit, you wait, and in no time at all, a drone is dispatched to the high-tech News Roundup studios with enough burgers, fries, and pizza slices to keep everyone happy, well-fed, and satisfied. Just one thing, Producer Davey, you may recall from the last story, I don't exactly have one of those nifty Amex Platinum cards. So if you don't mind, please put everything on your credit card. And remember, Producer Davey, remember, a well-fed News Roundup crew is a happy News Roundup crew. And a little test here, Davey, a News Roundup crew when well-fed is what?
I guess that would make them happy, right, Bill?
A happy News Roundup crew. Hey, by the way, when you call out for drone delivery, see if they have desserts. Because engineer Jamie and I, we both have kind of a sweet tooth. And where do we go from here?
Okay, Bill. We got to close the show, or certainly close the lighter news section of the show, with a sweet story about a triumphant return.
Very good. Finally today, welcoming back an old friend to the program. That is, if you're a fan of one particular candy bar whose return already has dozens of people swooning with delight. After a 20-year hiatus, the White Chocolate Crunch Bar, you know, the one that's jam-packed with crunchy, crispy, tiny chunks of rice, making a triumphant return to store shelves just in time for Halloween. Now, you might recall that in years past, the delicious delight was formerly known as Nestle's Crunch White. However, to the horror of its legion of die-hard fans, the company discontinued the product. Happened more than a decade before they sold the brand to Ferrero back in 2018. Supporters of Crunch White say the snack is perfect for people who prefer the taste of vanilla to chocolate, and nobody prefers the taste of vanilla to chocolate, and that as soon as it hits their local market, they plan on stocking up like there's no tomorrow. And if they're serious about it, they better do it lickety-split, because a special candy, it's going to be available only through the end of the year, so you know. And you know, white chocolate, it's not normal. It looks funny. It's got a weird taste and texture, kind of like plasticky. And I'd rather eat radishes dipped in horseradish sauce, sprinkled with pepper and parsley before throwing white chocolate down my gullet. Real chocolate is actually the perfect food. You got milk chocolate, dark chocolate, chocolate with nuts, and of course, cherry cordials, chocolates with cherries in the middle. What's better than that? White chocolate, it makes no sense. It's not chocolate. Yeah, it comes in a candy wrapper, but the way I see it, it's false advertising. And anyone who gives out white chocolate on Halloween, which, by the way, is coming up in about 6 weeks, they just don't understand the meaning behind chocolate or Halloween. Now, America, I ask you to please join me in issuing a worldwide ban on pretend chocolate, white chocolate. And I can't tell, Dave, because I can't see if there's a petition over my shoulder. But if there is, I hope you'll sign off on it. No white chocolate. And that is a look at the lighter side of news. And if you have any thoughts or comments or questions, jump in and you'll catch us at newsroundupwithbill@gmail.com. No white chocolate, Davey. Are people agreeing?
Well, some are agreeing and some are disagreeing, Bill.
Oh, lay it on me. What do you got?
Okay, well, first let's go to Carlos in your neck of the woods, Los Angeles, California.
I've heard of that small little two-horse town. What are you saying, Carlos?
Carlos says, can't wait till I can get my food by drone. Don't like anyone touching my food, even if it's in a bag. They never wash their hands.
Yeah, that's a good point, but you don't know what's happening in the back kitchen as well. You don't know if they're washing their hands while they're preparing that food. But the drone delivery service sounds absolutely fantastic. And Davey, you can tip a delivery driver, but you can't really tip a drone delivery, right? So you're going to save a couple of bucks. I like it already. Are we on the same page?
That's a great idea, Bill. Never thought of it.
Great idea. That's a little perk to the drone delivery service. Yeah, and who's up next?
Absolutely. Here's one from Lucretia in Independence, Missouri.
Lucretia, I like that name. What's on your mind?
And she says, great news about the white chocolate crunch bar.
Okay.
I've missed it dearly. However, it still can't hold a candle to Hershey's Cookies and Cream.
Ah, Hershey's Cookies and Cream. Not too bad. The Hershey's Kisses, I think, for my money, are about the best chocolate available. You don't see a lot of those around Halloween. You usually get the hard candy or the candy corn, but Hershey's Kisses are just unbeatable, especially the ones with the almonds right in the middle. And time for one more, and then we're going to wrap it up.
Okay, Bill, here's one from Wiley in Big Spring, Texas.
Wiley as in coyote. State your business, sir.
Wiley says, sorry, folks, but white chocolate ain't chocolate.
Yeah.
I'm aiming to sue them folks if they keep on lying to us. It's called fraud.
Let's call that a class action lawsuit. I'm right there with you. White chocolate is not chocolate. Chocolate comes in two varieties. It's going to be milk chocolate or dark chocolate. And for me, it's got to be milk chocolate. Try a Ghirardelli chocolate bar. There's nothing better on the planet. And now it is time for us to call it a wrap on the Thrill and Thursday edition of the Big News Roundup. It's almost a Friday. And before we go, as we do each and every day right here on the program, we share with you a very notable quote. And these interesting words come to us today from Jack Nicklaus, who said, resolve never to quit, never to give up, no matter what the situation. Nicklaus, an American retired professional golfer who's won a record number of major championships and is widely considered to be one of the greatest ever hit the links. And you know another great thing about this Jack Nicklaus fellow, right, Davey?
What's that, Bill?
They made a soft drink after him. They mixed lemonade and iced tea. He has his own very own soft drink.
No, Bill, you got that one wrong.
Huh?
That's an Arnold Palmer.
Oh, well, I got the golf part right, yes?
Yeah, Arnold Palmer is a golfer. Yes, you got that.
Once again, if I'm half right, I think I'm in the ballpark. And now it is time for us to bust on out. But before we do, don't forget the News Roundup motto. Ask not what your podcast can do for you. Ask what you can do for your podcast. And all we ask you to do is simply subscribe to the program so you never miss a single episode. And for now, it looks like our time is officially up, so have an awesome day today. Please stay safe. Let's all continue to watch out for one another. And now, Engineer Jamie will ask you to gently dim the lights. Let's fade to black, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow afternoon.